on, girl, let's scream.
I am a god.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. This is the part where you run.
Come on, scream.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Scream, a podcast where we usually dive into our favorite horror movies, but it's no Scream November. I'm Stevie.
And I'm Parker.
And today we are looking at 1992's Batman Returns, directed by Tim Burton.
Join us as we journey to Gotham City and learn all about how to serve cunt from Michelle Pfeiffer. Girl, are you ready to not scream?
Come on, let's not scream.
Okay, so Batman Returns. Ooh, I'm very excited because this was my favorite childhood movie. Still to this day, my favorite Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie.
I consider it a Christmas movie. So we're doing it this week as a way to round out No Scream November, but also transition into the holiday.
And this movie can be a little scary, especially for Batman.
It's kind of a straight up horror movie, when you really think about it. That's why I think I was always so attracted to it growing up.
It's very dark.
This movie resonated with me on a level that not many other movies have in my life. I remember watching this movie for the first time. I have a whole story with it.
Yeah.
So Batman was something that my dad and my brothers always loved and bonded over, but for a long time I didn't really get it or really like superheroes or anything like that. I always liked really really girly stuff growing up. So I felt disconnected from them. But I remember my dad tried to show me the 1989 Batman with Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Mm-hmm. And it terrified me. I can't remember how old I was, but I was so scared by the Joker. Yeah. And my dad, really wanted me to get into Batman and, superheroes because it was, a way... He wanted me to feel that connection.
Yeah. And
he knew that I would probably really like Batman Returns, and he, described it to me.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, and, the Penguin, his parents, threw him into the river, and he got raised by penguins, and then Catwoman, she got pushed out a window, but then the cats came and licked her up. And I remember my dad describing the plot of this movie to me, and then for some reason being really intrigued by that, even though it also sounds really scary too. But I remember watching it. We got it from Blockbuster, and it altered my brain chemistry. Michelle Pfeiffer's performance as Catwoman, I identified with this so much. And I think that's because even at that young age, I knew I was different. I knew I was probably queer in some aspect. And I just really relate to her, rage in this movie. As a woman who is, repressed in society.
Yeah.
I think that this does such a good job of showcasing that kind of, repressed rage. And it made me fall in love with Batman. And from then I just became a huge Batman fan and can appreciate all the other ones. But this one will always be so special to me. And I've seen it so many times.
It's my favorite.
And I introduced it to you because you were kind of the same way when we became friends. You weren't really into superheroes or Batman or anything, right?
Yeah, I liked The Dark Knight, but everything else, I don't like Marvel.
No, I'm not a big Marvel person.
I've seen 2 Marvel movies in my lifetime. I saw Captain Marvel because somebody I was seeing wanted to go see it. So I was yeah, let's go see it.
Okay, she's the lesbian one.
Yeah, I was okay. I was I liked it. I liked the soundtrack. It had Just a Girl in it.
Just a Girl by No Doubt.
If a soundtrack has Just a Girl in it, it's gonna be a good soundtrack.
That's what I realized last week when we did Romy and Michelle.
it's I liked it. Apparently nobody else liked that movie. But I was but then also watching it, I was I feel like this is what every Marvel movie is. There's
They're all
the superhero.
They're all the same.
Who realizes their powers and then it saves the day. And I think that's why Marvel has already, it's fallen off. Have you noticed that? There's no big Marvel movies anymore because it's they're all the fucking same. And then I saw the one with the snap. Where he did the
Avengers, bitch. Yes, I saw one of those. I think I've seen a couple of those.
And I just didn't. There were some problems I had.
I've seen all the Spider-Mans from Marvel because I loved also the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies when I was a kid. So
I've seen the one with the Green Goblin.
Yeah, the one with the Green Goblin. That's Tobey Maguire. That was my favorite.
Well, anyway, I like Batman. He's my favorite superhero because I like super villains.
He has the best villains.
He has the best villains.
Yeah, and I honestly think that he's like the most interesting hero too because he's so angsty and dark and yeah, there's a lot of like ways you can go down the Batman story path that can be very horror too, and obviously we love horror here at Let's Scream. It's our bread and butter. But yeah, this movie is really unique for a kids movie. First of all, like, this is edgy as shit for something from that time period. It's pretty early 90s, 92. It's Tim Burton, I think, at his most Tim Burton-y because he was given complete creative control this time.
And no, the set design is phenomenal. The camera work is amazing. Like, everything about this movie, the costuming, cinematography is really well done. Like,
score, Danny Elfman's score is so good. Yeah. It's, I think, just a brilliant, brilliant movie. I think it's super underrated. This would not be most people's favorite Batman movie. And it has a whole history because when it came out, it was super controversial.
Yes.
People were so up in arms because they marketed this movie to kids a lot. Like, it had like a Happy Meal deal at McDonald's and stuff, which I own all of the Batman Returns McDonald's toys.
Do you really? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
Yes, I do. I have them on display on my desk at work, but they're some of my prized possessions.
Take a picture of them for me.
I have a big Batman action figure collection. Mainly Batman Returns stuff because I just love it so much. But that was not the opinion of, the general public. They thought, like, what the fuck? Which it makes sense because, like, yeah, it's pretty terrifying. There's a lot of, like, weird, kinky, perverted stuff going on,
there's some, like, there's a lot of sexual innuendos throughout this movie.
Yeah, but I love it. And I remember being a kid being like, I wish more kids' movies were like this. Like, it just really spoke to me. And I think that would lead to my obsession with horror down the line.
Yeah.
I just was always attracted to, like, kind of darker shit and darker stories like that. And a lot of people just kind of disregard this one as, like, the weird Batman movie. But I'm here to argue that this one has some great things going for it and is one of the best Batman movies. This cast.
Okay, well, fun fact, Michael Keaton, that's from Keaton Gets Their Name, my partner.
Oh, that's cute. I love Michael Keaton. He's my favorite Batman for sure. Mm-hmm. He has this, like, really... Yeah, he kind of looks like handsome Squidward a little bit. Stevie's doing, like, the kind of, like...
you do it really well.
Yeah. The kind of, like, blue steel, like, Zoolander face. He's got, like, really expressive eyebrows.
He and I were talking about him where it's, like... I think he looks like he's just a 90s guy. You see him as he looks like he's from the 90s.
Well, definitely the way he's styled, for sure.
And we were like, yeah, we would definitely, like, we would definitely with Michael Keaton, but, like, 100%. We wouldn't go out of our way to.
He's kind of hot, especially something about him. This is so weird. I shouldn't say this, but him as Beetlejuice is kind of hot to me. I don't know why that, like, I shouldn't have said that. But it is. He's, definitely hot.
Would you rather Michael Keaton as Batman or Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice?
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
Oh. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me. But no, I love his, like, eyebrows. They're really expressive, and he's very, like, unhinged, very weird and cool version of Batman that I don't think anyone else has been able to capture. Danny DeVito as the Penguin.
He's my favorite actor.
Yeah, I mean, fair. Like,
and this is one of my favorite roles. And what I hate is that people hated this role. Him as this
right
role. But I think it's so campy and it's great. So fun.
He's at like an 11 the whole time. Also, Christopher Walken as Max Schreck, the main villain.
Yes.
He's being so Christopher Walken in this movie.
I love it so fucking much.
His
I
voice.
love Christopher Walken.
I love
that's
the way
why I
he
was
talks.
thinking about, we were talking about Click today.
Because he's in Click. Yeah.
He's in Click.
Adam Sandler. Yeah.
With Adam Sandler. And then there's also
Last but not least,
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean,
And this is our second Michelle Pfeiffer movie.
it is. Go listen to our Mother podcast for more Michelle Pfeiffer isms. I could do a whole podcast about my love for Michelle Pfeiffer.
I know you could.
You know I could.
And it's mostly because of this role.
Mostly because of this role.
She wanted this role so fucking badly. She like trained with a whip to get this role.
She was originally not going to play Catwoman. Actually, fun fact, her and Michael Keaton had dated before. Or she was actually up for the part of Vicky Vale, who was Batman's love interest in the first movie. But Michael Keaton actually kind of prevented that from happening because he didn't want to have to work with his ex. Apparently he was trying to get back with his wife at the time. Anyway, a couple years later, Annette Bening gets cast for Batman Returns to play Catwoman. But she finds out that she's pregnant right before filming begins.
She cannot do it.
Because a pregnant woman would not be able to do the physicality that this role requires. Yeah. So they found Michelle Pfeiffer as a last-minute replacement. I think it is the greatest acting performance ever. That might be like a really bloated statement, but
it's good.
It just is my favorite. She gets to be crazy and really angry and also super melancholy and sad, and she has a whole range of emotions, and she's really funny on top of all of that.
Yes.
It's so dynamic. So that's why I'll defend Batman Returns. I think that the parts that she's on film are some of my favorite moments from a movie ever. She just is electric. But yeah, that's kind of all I want to say so far before we get into like the plot. So at this point, we're going to get into spoiler territory for Batman Returns. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause this podcast, go and watch the movie, and then come back. Are you ready to not scream, girl?
Come on, girl. Let's
not scream. Okay, so Batman Returns opens on a Gothic mansion that belongs to a rich family. The dad is played by Paul Rubens, aka Pee Wee Herman.
I did not know that.
Yes, fun fact. They originally cast Burgess Meredith, who played the Penguin in the 1960s Batman series, but he got really sick before they went to film, so they replaced him with Paul Rubens. He's a guy on like a top hat and a monocle and like a long cigarette. Like he's dressed to resemble the Penguin from the old original Batman from Adam West and from the cartoons and stuff. And the wife we hear is in the mansion elsewhere. She is giving birth. We hear her screams of terror, and they come and tell him that the baby's born, but something is wrong. And we see sometime later that they have to keep the baby in a cage. And it's got little like flipper hands that reaches out of the cage and grabs their cat and like kills their cat. And they're like, what the fuck do we do? And we see as they put the baby in a stroller, they take it up to the top of this bridge. They see like another like married couple with a baby, and they like smile to them like, oh, nothing's sus going on here. Like, and they toss the baby over the bridge where it floats down the river into the sewers below. And we get the dun 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 dun, dun like the opening credits. I mean, it's the Batman theme song. Like, it's iconic. Danny Elfman does such a good job. I like the added suite that he did in this movie for Catwoman. Yes. Like, all the cool strings are so just evocative of like a little kitty cat sneaking around.
I always think like music just really helps stuff to stand out, and it just I can just think of like the singing one of her big scenes, and then you can just think of the music and how much it just adds to the scene. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. Oh.
And we get the opening credits as the baby floats down the tunnel until it reaches an underground shore where it's greeted by some penguins.
It's so good.
It's very like Moses and the Reeds too.
Yes.
So like
oh my god, a baby.
A baby. We flash forward to, I think it was like 20 years later. 30 years later, I can't remember.
It's now modern 1992.
Sure. And we see Gotham City at Christmas time. This is the coolest version of Gotham City.
It's such a good set. It's such an amazing set design.
It's so fucking cool, and like it's snowing, and there's weird like atlases and like statues everywhere, and like the architecture.
Art Deco.
Very Art Deco. Well, Tim Burton understands that Gotham City should be stuck in a perpetual like 1940s style. That's what I love about Gotham and like the cartoon as well, Batman the Animated Series, like the way it's styled. Everything is still so like 30s, 40s. There's like mobsters and old school technology going on. Yeah. Like it's something that the more modern versions of Batman don't do as well for me, especially the Christopher Nolan ones. Like,
it's just New York.
It's straight up just New York. It doesn't look stylish or kind of that perpetual 1940s vibe. And it's captured perfectly here. He does such a good job of setting the scene. And we see they're lighting the tree. They're having like their yearly festivities down in the town square. We see the Ice Princess.
Kylie Sonique Love.
She looks like, which is what Kylie did her look as. And she is lighting the tree. And everyone's celebrating Christmas. But we see someone watching from a sewer grate. And they stick their little hands out. And they have little flipper hands coming out of the sewer grate. And we see Alfred, Bruce Wayne's butler, who's like bitching out the paperboy. Who's like, extra, extra, read all about it. Mysterious penguin man.
Yep.
Alfred almost sees the penguin. But the hands disappear into the sewer grate. We scale way the fuck up to the top of a high-ass building with a big spinning cat head on top of it. Yeah. This is the office of Max Schreck, a.k.a. Christopher Walken, who's like a businessman with like white hair. He is very kind of spooky looking, and also I think, even though would be like early Trump, I think he's supposed to be a satire of Trump.
He is, because he says later, "You're fired."
He says,
he's literally supposed to be a satire.
He's literally a Trump parody, which I think is brilliant.
Yes,
we learn that Christopher Walken is giving a pitch to the mayor of Gotham for his power plant project, which is like a huge plot point. We also see his secretary, Selena Kyle, a.k.a. My mother, Michelle Pfeiffer. She has like this messy bun. She's got glasses and like a brown suit. She's just kind of frumpy looking. And she's very shy. And she speaks out of turn to suggest an idea. But he mocks her and like humiliates her in front of the office. And says, "We haven't properly house-trained our secretary. She makes a hell of a cup of coffee, though." And she has to kind of like smile nervously. Yeah. And he leaves with all of the hoity-toity businessmen. She like talks to herself a lot in this movie, and she calls herself a stupid corn dog. She's like, "Actually, more of a question, you stupid corn dog." Oh. Yeah. We see the penguin's silhouette lurking around below in the sewers as the mayor introduces Max Schreck to the crowd, who has to improvise a speech because he forgot his speech. He says, "Remind me to blame it on what's her name, Selena, later." He gives a very Trump-like speech, just bullshit. And we see a giant Christmas gift come out of nowhere. And then a gang of weird circus people pop out like some kind of Trojan horse.
Yes, and Kate and I kind of pointed out, we're like, these people could have been hired by any Batman villain.
Right.
I was like, these are probably,
it's a little Joker.
I was like, they're just mercenaries.
Little Harley Quinn.
Which I was like, I kind of like that idea that it's like, yeah, they're a union.
Right.
They're a union, and they're like, oh, Penguin needs us today.
I love the way they're designed too. Some really cool like clown designs going on.
Yes.
They start causing mayhem, and we see Commissioner Gordon go, "Well, what are you waiting for? The signal!" And then we see the bat symbol illuminating in the sky. And it actually is fixed to light up inside Wayne Manor.
Yeah.
And we see Michael Keaton get up from his chair and like serve handsome Squidward face to the camera with his glasses on. Like, it's time, bitch. And I'm Batman. And Batman shows up in the Batmobile, of course. And we get action. Okay? This movie, it has action.
It has such good action.
And with a lot of action movies, I can start to feel my eyes kind of like glazing over during these action parts. But I think Batman Returns has kooky action.
Yes.
It's fun. He like kicks everyone's ass from inside the Batmobile. And then like the Batmobile does some action. And then he gets out and starts like doing action on all of the guys.
Yeah.
And then he like lights a guy on fire and like it's just amazing. Kills a guy. Like, okay, Batman's just like fully murdering people now. I love it.
It's amazing.
A clown guy attacks Selena and Batman appears and saves her by using his like Batman harpoon gun and knocking some bricks into the guy's head and like knocking him out.
Yeah.
It's action.
It's action.
Action, okay? And he like glares at Selena and she goes, wow, the Batman. Or is it just Batman? Your choice, of course. And he just like stares her up and down and then just like walks away.
Yep.
And she's like, well, that was very brief, like all the other men in my life. And she stays behind though. And she lingers on that clown that attacked her. And she sees that he has a taser that is property of Shrek businesses. So is he maybe manufacturing weapons on the black market or something? We don't know. Like it just kind of alluded to that. But she takes the taser and she tases the clown to like kind of show off her dark side, which I love.
It's good.
Amid the chaos, Shrek hides in an empty alley and he stops to catch his breath. But somehow, perfectly, he is standing right on a trap door, which opens up and he falls
down.
He just happened to, you know, take a pause right on that trap door, and it worked out perfectly. But we get this really cool shot of one of the Tim Burton famous, like, little miniature sets that he builds.
Yeah.
It's the abandoned zoo.
Yeah.
That the penguin's iconic lair is in.
Yep.
I love the way that Burton used to do these practical
effects.
Miniature sets.
It's so good. Yeah. It's so good.
There's just the craftsmanship involved in. And Shrek wakes up surrounded by the circus gang and some penguins. And then the penguin appears, Danny DeVito.
Yes.
Okay, so we could describe him now. He has a long-ass beak nose.
He has, like, sharp teeth, and he's always kind of rocking like this. And he has the signature no hair on the top of his head, Danny DeVito, but hair on the sides, but it's, like, long. And he's kind of wearing this, like, onesie.
And he's like a baby.
And he just waddles like a penguin.
And flipper fingers.
He's, like, fused. If y'all have seen American Horror Story Freak Show, it's like Evan Peters' character, where he had the lobster hands.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
He kind of looks up from feeding his penguins and he goes, hi, and gives a big smile. Mm-hmm. And he shows off the different umbrellas that he has in his collection. And they all do some different shit. One's like a flamethrower. Yeah. He even has one that has a swirl pattern as if to try and hypnotize Shrek. And Shrek is like, what's that supposed to do? Hypnotize me? And he goes, no, just give you a splitting headache. And he like, fires it off and you realize it's a gun. Yeah. Christopher Walken like craps his pants. Yeah. And he's like, you big baby, just shooting blanks at you.
It's such a good it's so creepy. It's so
campy.
Scary. I love it.
And he really embodies a penguin. Like it's the physicality of the fucking bird.
Yes.
And I love that. He reveals his intentions. He has a shit ton of evidence he found in the sewer that Shrek's power plant project is shady as fuck. Yeah. And this involves some taped up documents that were shredded. And he's like, but a little patience and a lot of tape will get you far in this life, or some shit like that. Yeah. And he even has some crazy ass like toxic waste in this like
because
mug that he
the
carries
real
around.
villain is capitalism.
Right. And he even has the disembodied hand of Shrek's old assistant. And he goes, "Remember me? I'm Fred's hand." He reminds him, he says, "You flush it, I flaunt it, Max." And so he explains that he is blackmailing Shrek so that he will help the penguin out, return to the world above, introduce him back to society, and find his birth parents. He has enough heat on Shrek to ultimately convince Shrek to help him out. Christopher Walken's like, "Maybe we can work out some business together."
Yep.
He's like, "That's more like it, Max." We then see Selena arrive at her pink-ass apartment. She does a great line where she walks into her room and she goes, "Honey, I'm home. Oh, I forgot. I'm not married." Which I still to this day say every time I get home from work. Because my roommate Travis doesn't get home until much later.
Yep.
So most of the time I come home to an empty apartment and I always give the, "Honey, I'm home. Oh, I forgot. I'm not married." And she talks to herself. She's very self-deprecating in her humor. She's always kind of shitting on herself. She has a black cat, Miss Kitty.
Miss Kitty?
That she feeds some milk to. And she's like, "Where have you been, Miss Kitty? Back from your sexual escapades, I'm assuming." "Oh, you think I'm pathetic?" "Oh, pathetic. Well, I'm a working girl. I have to pay the rent. I don't see you helping out." She listens to some voicemails. Her mother is disappointed in her.
She's not coming home for Christmas.
"Well, we'd hope that you'd come home for Christmas. But I guess you're going to stay in Gotham as a lowly secretary." And she's like, "Lowly assistant."
Assistant.
And we also get a voicemail from her current boo thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And he basically dumps her and says that he wants to go on the skiing trip alone because he says, "My therapist wants me to be my own person and not an appendage." And she like deletes the voicemail and she goes, "Some appendage." Then she gets a voicemail from herself reminding her to return to the office and prepare Shrek for a meeting, which she forgot. And she's like, "Stupid corn dog." Always calling her a corn dog. We see back at Shrek's office, though, Shrek enters to find Selena snooping around in a filing cabinet that she clearly wasn't meant to be seeing. It's a very tense scene. And I love the dialogue here.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken and Michelle Pfeiffer work so well off of each other.
Yeah. Working late.
"Oh, I'm just boning up for your Bruce Wayne meeting in the morning. I pulled all the files on the proposed power plant and Mr. Wayne's hope for investment. And I even opened the protected files."
How industrious. How did you open the protected files, may I ask?
"I figured your password was Geraldo, your Chihuahua, and it was. This is all very interesting, although a bit on the technical side."
I just want to say, Geraldo it's a stuffed dog.
Stuffed Chihuahua.
It's like a taxidermy Chihuahua on the wall.
"About how the power plant is a power plant in name only, since in fact it's going to be a big giant capacitor. And instead of generating power, it'll actually be sucking power from Gotham City and sort of storing it and stockpiling it. Which is a very novel approach, I'd say."
Who'd you say this to?
"Nobody." And he starts getting in her face.
What did curiosity do to the cat?
"I'm no cat, sir. I'm just an assistant. A secretary."
And a very good one.
"Too good?" And he starts to back her up against the window. And he looks very menacing. And the lighting is lit from
so scary.
below, so he looks super menacing. Also, her glasses are casting a shadow on her forehead and her eyes that make it look like a cat mask in this scene, which I think is really cool. And she's like, listen, it's our secret. Honest. How can you be so mean to someone so meaningless?
The power plant is my legacy. It's what I leave behind. But Chip, nothing must prevent that.
Okay, fine. Go ahead. Intimidate me. Bully me. It makes you feel big. I mean, it's not like you can just kill me.
Actually, it's a lot like that.
And then he starts to look like he's gonna like choke her out. Then he starts laughing. Like,
like,
oh, I got you. I was just kidding. And she's like, yeah, for a second there, you really frightened me. And then he pushes her out the fucking window. And she screams as she falls down from the top of this high-ass building. She rips through some tarps, and then she lands on the snowy streets below. And he just kind of shrugs it off. He's like, sounds good, and like leaves. She appears to be dead, but then some cats appear, like hundreds of cats.
Yeah.
And they start swarming around her, and they lick her, and they brush against her, and they nibble at her fingers, and the music is really intense, and she starts to like twitch around, and her eyes are like doing that weird thing where they're like rolling into the back of her head. Yeah. And then her eyes snap open. She's alive.
Yes.
This is my favorite scene.
Yes.
We see her in this catatonic, like trance-like state. What?
Catatonic.
Catatonic. Good call. She gets back to her apartment and she looks fucked up.
And she says, honey, I'm home.
Oh, I forgot. I'm not married. And she's all like tranced out. She starts pouring milk out for Miss Kitty, but she's spilling it all over the floor. And then she like chugs the rest of the milk herself.
And her like she goes to the voicemail. And her mom's like, Selena, call me back when you get this.
This is your mother.
And then she gets another one. She's like, Selena, this is your mother. Why have you not called me back?
Then it gets to an ad for Shrek's department store perfume. And the ad is very like, your boss will be calling you for a candlelit dinner for 2 after you wear this perfume. And that is the last straw. She gets so triggered and she snaps.
She throws the milk at the like voice recorder.
She like destroys her answering machine and her
the
phone.
answering machine, and she just and then she grabs all of her stuffed animals and she shoves them into the garbage disposal. And what I kind of love about this is like it's her becoming a cat, and she's like, so she's just recklessly just like destroying things,
going on a whole like rampage. And the music is beautiful as we see this whole montage of her destroying her apartment.
It's so iconic.
She takes some pots and pans and like shatters her mirrors with them. She takes some black spray paint
and spraying the walls, and she like opens her closet and sprays like a t-shirt that has some kitties on it.
Anything that's like pink and girly, like she has a dollhouse that she destroys and paints black. Then there's this neon sign on her wall that says hello there, and she knocks out the H in the T so that it spells hell here instead. And I love this movie so much, and Vivian actually, one of my best friends, Vivian, painted me a picture of the hell here sign that glows in the dark, but just the hell here parts. Yeah. So it says hello there in light, and then you turn the lights off and it says hell here. So shout out to Viv, because that's like one of my favorite decor pieces I have.
But she finds in her closet this like black patent leather jacket, and she's like, oh fuck yes.
Oh bitch, I'm gonna be Catwoman, bitch. Basically,
so she like takes it, and that's when this is like when she gets on the sewing machine, she like starts sewing it. And she finds like one of the bobbins like with a needle in it, and she's like realizes she can make a claw. So you see her like sewing together the costume,
and she looks so fucked up this whole time too.
And it's just so like good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
And then we see the silhouette of Catwoman
from like outside the window. We see the hell here sign. Yeah. This is when we first get the
reveal that it said hell here. She has her cunty Catwoman voice on finally, and she goes, I don't know about you, Miss Kitty, but I feel so much yummier.
And there's a bunch of cats like outside like watching her. It's so good. And it's cool because like her room has like just this pink glow to it too, like from the contrast of the black, and then like it's just so cool.
I remember watching this and my eyes like literally glued to the screen. Like this scene altered my brain chemistry.
It's amazing.
During a press conference that the mayor is giving, a cartwheeling clown shows up and snatches the mayor's baby and goes down into the sewer. And the penguin, quote unquote, saves the baby, even though this is all clearly staged, and rises up. He has like a rubber ducky lift thing.
Yes.
That also, I guess, can be like, we see it later as like a little remote control car. It's pretty cool. And he rises up out from the sewers and declares that he saved the baby. And Bruce Wayne is watching the news from his mansion, and he sees the story on TV about the penguin saving the baby, and an interview with him saying that he wants to find his parents, which paints him in a very sympathetic light. And Bruce even says like, oh, I hope he finds his parents.
Yeah.
So the penguin then posts up in the Hall of Records, and we see him going through birth certificates and writing down a list of names. The press wants to be present, saying it's a violation of the First Amendment for him to like be alone in the Hall of Records. But Shrek is like guilt trips them, like, hey, have a heart. He just wants to find his parents, kind of thing. And everyone decides to like let him be. Bruce Wayne watches this news, and that, along with the knowledge that Penguin is friends with Shrek, who is shady, doesn't sit right with Bruce. So he decides to do some detective work. And we get, a Batman montage scene of him like on the Bat computer doing all the Batman shit.
Yep.
He finds some sketchy articles about an old circus gang featuring a quiet penguin boy that would cause chaos and destruction. And he suspects that Penguin is the leader of what they call the Red Triangle Gang, which he deduces is probably the circus gang that attacked earlier.
Yeah.
He goes out as Batman and spies on Penguin from outside, like in his Batmobile, as the Penguin continues to go through all the birth certificates. And he's sketched the fuck out by Penguin. Like, he smells bullshit.
Yeah.
Pretty immediately. We see the Penguin visit a cemetery, and he places flowers on his parents' graves as this crowd of paparazzi and like the media watches. He tells the crowd that he has discovered who he really is, because they're like, Penguin, Mr. Penguin. And he goes, a penguin is a bird that cannot fly. I am a man. I have a name. Oswald Cobblepot. It's true. I was their number one son. But they treated me like number two. But he says he ultimately forgives them for tossing him out. And it earns him major sympathy points from the people of Gotham, who start to laud him as this like big hero. And we see Gotham City citizens turn Penguin into this unlikely celebrity. They're very touched by his story. And I like the line of this one woman being like, he's like a frog that became a prince. And this guy goes, oh no, he's more like a penguin. We see a thug corner a young girl on the street and start to threaten her and like assault her. But Catwoman appears. She goes, I just love a big, strong man who's not afraid to pick on someone half his size. Go easy on me. It's my first time. We finally see her in full lighting. She is wearing this black, shiny vinyl suit
with this
stitched
like,
up white
thread stitching.
So she kind of looks like a zombie, a little Frankenstein in the design, which Tim Burton designed the costume. Like, you can see his original renderings of what he wanted it to look like. And I think it's the hands down best Catwoman suit. Like, they always want to go really tactical with Catwoman nowadays. Like, Zoe Kravitz and Hathaway, their Catwoman costumes weren't cunty. And I wish that they would just lean into the... Like, let her look like a fucking cat, bitch. Yeah, whatever.
Batman looks like a fucking
Batman. I know, like, they want to give Batman the cowl with bat ears, but they don't want to give Catwoman the cowl with cat ears. Like, y'all are cowards. She also wears an exposed corset and fetishy black high-heeled boots. And her makeup is some of the, I think, the coolest makeup. Like,
Oh yeah.
first, well, her eyes are gorgeous. They're a great shape
It's
for
just
like
a beautiful
smoky black eye.
The red lip.
Red lip, and she's super pale.
Yes.
So it just really stands out.
The dark brows.
Definitely one of my all-time favorite costume designs in a movie. Just
Yes.
striking.
She
And
like takes her claws and makes like a tic-tac-toe.
tic-tac-toe on his face. Yes.
And then like
scratches
punches him out.
Just kicks his ass. The girl goes, "Oh, thank you," but she like grabs this girl by the face and she goes, "You make it easy, don't you? Always waiting for some bad man to save you. I am Catwoman. Hear me roar." And then she backflips away. I was
For
like,
no
oh,
reason.
she did a backflip.
For no reason. But
Right.
she did it anyway.
Just to like be cunty. Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna backflip.
And Batman is meeting with Shrek in his office, having like a businessman cunt off, basically, regarding Bruce not wanting to fund the power plant because he thinks it's sketchy. And he's very open about his dislike of Max, and he knows that he's up to no good. And he says, I already went to the mayor, and he sees eye to eye with me, so I'm going to fight you on this. And Shrek says very pointedly, "Mayors come and go." Suddenly, Selena shows up. She looks cunty now. Like, even in her Selena alter ego, her hair is like in these like really wild ringlets that she wears down now.
Yes.
And she's got more of some makeup on. She's wearing a more like flattering outfit.
Yeah.
She's like just total makeover.
She's not frumpy.
No longer frumpy. She's cunty.
Selena.
That's my name, Maximilians. Don't wear it out or I'll make you buy me a new one.
Did you hurt yourself on that ski slope? Is that why you cut short your vacation?
It's a blur. Not complete amnesia. I remember Sister Mary Margaret puking in church and Betsy saying it was morning sickness. And of course, the time that I forgot to wear my underpants to school. And the name of the boy who noticed was Ricky Friedberg. He's dead now. But last night, complete blur. Couldn't you just die? And like Max is like, this bitch.
Please, show up, Mr. Wing.
Sure. And she like takes him out. And Bruce immediately has a total hard on for her. And they flirt as she escorts him to the elevator. And he is like basically drooling over her. And who wouldn't, right? Who wouldn't, right?
Yeah, me too.
I mean, literally, I became straight after this. and he is just so down bad that he's even asking for her number pretty much right out the gate and everything. Shrek visits the Penguin in this like dusty loft that he's been staying in with the circus gang who are just like there like chilling.
Yeah.
And he continues to like work on this list thing. And Max lures the Penguin down the stairs with a raw fish. Just like a whole ass fish. And downstairs there's this room of people clapping for him. And there's campaign posters that say Penguin for mayor on them and stuff. And Shrek reveals that he has signed the Penguin's ass up to run for the mayor and replace the current one who doesn't like Shrek's power plant idea. And the Penguin is like clearly not the type of person that maybe should be running for mayor. And there's these corny publicist people who
being annoying.
Getting annoying and kind of getting up in the Penguin's face. The one woman like gives him like regular gloves and is like, our research shows that voters like people with 10 fingers. And then the other guy,
he's like, they didn't have any mirrors down in the sewers, did they?
Could be worse. My nose could be gushing blood. What does that mean? And then he bites the dude's nose.
That's what he gets.
And there's like just gushing blood coming out of it, like a river of blood. It's like, I remember this scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
It's graphic.
They're all like freaking out, but Shrek is still trying to like hype everybody up, like, let's make a mayor! And those two come up with a plan inspired by the literal fucking Reichstag fire. Like, they name drop the Reichstag fire as the inspiration. And they're going to unleash the Red Triangle gang onto the streets of the city to cause mayhem and make the mayor look like he's not doing anything about it or he doesn't know what he's doing. So they're going to try to impeach him. And at first, Penguin doesn't like this idea, But then he quickly warms up to it, thinking all of the power it would bring.
Yeah.
And Shrek literally says it would get him unlimited poontang. And like the penguin's like a total pervert too. Like we always see him like gawking at like the women in this movie.
Yeah.
So he is super down for that idea. He even like lingers on the publicist lady and he goes, oh, I'd like to fill her void. And it's just being gross.
Yeah.
And he finally says, all right, I'll be the mayor. And he turns around, he addresses the audience, and he goes, burn, baby, burn.
Yay. I love him.
And we get an action sequence. More action. And the circus gang is causing chaos. And Batman is doing action. And he literally kills another dude by like strapping a bomb to him.
Yeah. And kicking him into the sewer.
And just explodes. It's like, what the fuck, Batman? Like, chill. And he uses this batarang to attack a group of them. And the poodle lady's dog snatches it up and runs away with it.
She's cunty.
I love the poodle lady.
I don't know if we've mentioned her yet, but she's one of the henchmen.
And she's just like always like serving face.
With her poodle.
With her fucking poodle. Then we get an iconic scene of Catwoman sneaking into Shrek's department store.
I love the first shot when it's like, so the Shrek's department store logo is like this round like cat head. It's on the window and she like comes right up to it and like puts her hands
up on it and just
like,
gives a big smile.
It's so good. And she goes in and she uses her whip to knock the heads off of a bunch of mannequins in the department store, and she did this in one fucking take. It's amazing. Ugh. It is one of the most iconic.
You can look it up. Like, go to YouTube, and you can see the behind the scenes of her doing this all in one take. And I'm pretty sure this is just the take they used.
Yeah.
They didn't feel the need to do it again because it was perfect.
It was perfect. She did it in one fucking take.
And then she, like, uses her whip as a jump rope and, like, skips around with it.
She's like smashing a bunch of jewelry cases open.
Yeah, just breaking shit.
And then these two cops show up.
Oh, who is she? What is she? I don't know whether to open fire or fall in love.
You poor guys. Always confusing your pistols with your privates.
And then she whips their guns out of their hands. Like, don't hurt us, lady. Our take-home's less than $300.
You're overpaid. Hit the road.
Ugh. And then she busts open some gas tanks and she prepares to create, like, a huge explosion.
She takes a bunch of spray paints and puts them into a microwave and, like, sets it up. Because so, like, once those blow up, it's going to cause
a huge
explosion.
Yeah. And Batman and Penguin, meanwhile, see each other out in the streets. And they have a cunt off. It's like it's very like Western, old country Western, stand-up kind of vibe. And Batman says, admiring your handiwork.
Touring the riot scene. Gravely assessing the devastation upstating mayor stuff.
You're not the mayor.
Things change.
What do you want?
The direct approach. I admired that in a man with a mask. You don't really think you'll win, do you?
And then Batman takes like a cunty step forward and goes, things change. And then Catwoman
backflips in.
Like Simone Biles, bitch. She like literally flips like a million backflips into the scene. And then she goes, meow. And then in that very second, the department store behind her explodes. And she starts to scale the building. And Penguin uses this flying umbrella to like zoom away while Batman's distracted by her.
Yeah.
Then we get one of my favorite scenes. Her and Batman get into this like crazy fight on top of the roof. And she's kind of like matching his freak. And he kind of gets freaked out by her. Like there's one moment where she like hisses at him and his eyes go wide. Like, bitch, you're crazy. Like, damn. And he hits her. And she like falls over and starts gaslighting him. And she goes, how could you?
I'm a woman.
And then he's like, oh, I'm so sorry.
He like gets his ass.
He goes up to her to help her, allowing him to get close enough for her to just kick his ass. And he ends up dangling off the roof, like holding onto her whip for dear life. And we get my favorite line in the whole movie. She goes, like I said, I'm a woman and can't be taken for granted. Life's a bitch. Now so am I. And I remember, Stevie, gasping at that line as a child. Being like, They said bitch in Batman? Like, oh my god.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's cunty. He uses this device, though, in his utility belt to, like, slash her arm, and she falls, and he's able to get up and saves her, and he, like, pulls her, like, really close to him, and she goes, "Who are you? Who's the man behind the bat? Maybe you can help me find the woman behind the cat." And she starts to feel him up and, like, move her hands all around his, like, armor and his abs and stuff. And then she's like, "No, that's not you." And then she goes into his, like, side where he doesn't have the armor blocking it. And she goes, "Ah, there you are." And he gives, like, a big horny grin, too.
Yeah, she is feeling him the fuck up.
And then she jams her claws right into his side.
Yeah.
And he instinctively just, like, pushes her away, and she falls off the building. And she lands on this passing truck bed that's filled with, like, sand or, like, dirt or something. Yeah. And she goes, "Saved by kitty litter. Bastard." Ugh.
And that's her first life.
Yeah. Because this is when we start
second
to...
life.
Yeah, we start to realize that she has 9 lives.
Yeah.
And we see the Penguin give a speech announcing that he is running for mayor. He's criticizing the mayor for standing back and watching as the gang causes chaos. Then he, like, pervs on this young girl, and he's putting, like, a campaign button on her blouse. And he totally just grabs her whole titty while he's doing it.
So
like, ew. He goes back up to the loft. And we see Catwoman is lying on the bed, sprawled out, like, looking hot as fuck. This turned me straight. I turned gay once the movie was over. Yeah, but for a moment, this turned me straight.
Girl, we know.
I know. She tells the Penguin that she wants to link up and take on Batman together as a team.
Just the pussy I've been looking for.
Did he just say pussy?
He said pussy in a Batman movie. And she goes, "Oh, it's chilly in here."
"I'll warm ya."
"Down, Oswald. We need to talk. You see, you and I have something in common."
"Appetite for destruction, contempt for the czars of fashion. Wait, don't tell me. Naked sexual charisma."
You sound like Uncle Fester from
That's right. We should have ugly girls.
Hey, why should I trust some cat broad anyway? Then she snatches his pet bird and puts it in her mouth. Which Michelle Pfeiffer actually did this. Yeah. She put the fucking bird in her mouth. And he threatens to kill her cat, Miss Kitty, with an umbrella knife. So she just, like, opens her mouth and lets the bird fly away. And she goes, "Look, Batman napalmed my arm. He knocked me off a building just when I started to feel good about myself. I want to play an integral part in his degradation." And he goes, "A plan is forming." He makes, like, a little penguin shadow with his, like, little flipper hands. And he's like, "Wah, wah, 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 wah." And she goes, "I want in. The thought of busting Batman makes me feel all dirty. Maybe I'll just give myself a bath right here." And then she licks herself like a little cat.
The next day, Bruce spots Selena staring at her reflection in a store window, talking to herself, saying, "Why are you doing this?"
Yeah, she's like, "Why are you doing this?" And he goes, "Selena, sorry, I didn't mean to scare you."
"Scare me? I was just scaring myself."
"Well, I don't see how, but it's nice to see you in the real world, away from Shrek."
"It's nice to be here."
"Here, you all right? You look like you got the holiday blues or something."
And she shakes her head, but her eyes tell a completely different story.
Yeah, she does, like, really good acting work with her, like, eyes and her eyebrows in this movie. Like, and her eyes always kind of look, like, wet, like she's been crying.
Yeah.
It's just,
they're
like,
always a little glassed over.
Yeah. It's really cool. Boy, the news these days. Weird. I heard on TV that Catwoman weighs 140 pounds. How do these hacks sleep at night?
It's not even accurate. Batman blows it. Oh yeah, because the newspapers just say Batman blows it.
Yeah, they're walking past, like, all the headlines going on.
He'd probably save millions in property damage alone. You're not going to the relighting of the tree, are you?
I wouldn't be caught dead there. And then she says a line that the Joker says in Batman 1, which I think is like a really interesting thing for her to say.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's going to be a hot time in the cold town tonight.
You got kind of a dark side, don't you?
No darker than yours, Bruce. Then he decides to ask her over to have dinner, and she accepts, but only if it can be an early dinner, because she's got plans later. Then we see the diva, the Ice Princess.
Kylie Sonique Love.
Giving Kylie Sonique love. She's in her tent getting ready for the tree lighting ceremony. I love this, like, campy dialogue. She's like such a bimbo. Okay, so the tree lights up, and then I push the button.
No way.
No. I push the button, and then the tree lights up. Like, and then the penguin comes in with the poodle lady pretending to be a talent scout. And she's like, oh, talent scouts? Is that a camera? And he goes, yeah, say cheese. And then he whacks her with the batarang. We see Selena and Bruce. They're having dinner by the fire at his house. And we get this like cute scene of them like unpacking their love lives. And we learn that his relationship with Vicky Vale, Kim Bassinger's character in the first movie, that didn't work out like after the first movie.
Yeah.
And you just know like Selena is clearly the perfect woman for him. Like she is just as much of a weirdo as he is. And she's kind of turned on by his emotional instability in a way.
Yeah.
She can like relate to it. And she goes, it's the normal guys that will let you down. Sickos never scare me. At least they're committed. And then they make out.
Kids movie.
Right? I don't like this pushing the straight agenda.
Yeah.
And they keep having to like pull the other in different positions to make sure that the other one won't feel up on their wounds.
Yep.
Like he keeps trying to like touch her side, but she's got like a scratch from when Batman like stabbed her, you know, shit like that.
And same with him.
Yeah. And Bruce sees on the TV this breaking news story about the Ice Princess being captured. So he has to leave. And he tells Alfred to make something up for him, like to tell Selena. And then Alfred goes to her and she's all like, oh, Alfred, I have to leave. Can you like make something up for Bruce?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So it's funny. And we see like the juxtaposition of the two because Batman gets ready in the fancy Batcave, and he has like a million different suits to pick from, basically. Yeah. But she's getting ready in her like car, and she's got the one suit that's like falling apart at the seams.
Yeah, I love it because it gradually gets destroyed throughout the movie.
Yeah, and like you can tell like there's some scenes where she like repatched it.
Yeah,
and then there are other scenes where like the patching is just like coming apart.
Yeah,
like, literally falling
really
apart at the seams. We see the circus gang approach the parked Batmobile and begin to sabotage it, which the Penguin was hinting at earlier was going to be his plan. Batman finds the kidnapped Ice Princess in this old abandoned building, and he goes up to untie her from this chair. But then Catwoman shows up, and they get into this like cunty fight where they're exchanging like little quips at each other.
Yeah.
And she snatches the princess up and goes up to the roof with her. And she goes, gotta go. Girl talk. And he goes up to find the princess standing on the edge of the building. And the Penguin appears and opens his umbrella to reveal a bunch of bats that swarm the princess and causes her to fall off the building to her death below.
R.I.P. Kylie Sonique Love.
I know. Diva down, right? Like, they literally killed this bitch. And everyone below is like shook, and they look up to see Batman there with all the bats flying around, and it makes him look like he pushed the princess. And someone's like, Batman pushed the princess! And Catwoman gets Batman to the ground, and she like straddles him. And she goes, you're catnip to a girl like me. Handsome, dazed, and to die for. And then they notice that there's some mistletoe hanging up above them. And he goes, mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it.
But a kiss can be even deadlier if you mean it.
And then she licks his mouth.
Kids movie.
Hot. I mean, like...
This is marketed to kids.
Well, I don't appreciate pushing the straight agenda on our children.
No.
I think that's fucked up.
They're too young to know.
Right. Like, I don't want to see a man and a woman kiss in a kid's movie. Like, I'm fine with straight people, but I don't
want to see it.
Want to see it, you know?
Exactly. Like, stop shoving it down my throat.
They're just shoving it down our throats. Yeah, exactly. She tries to claw him, but He gets the upper hand and he flies away on like this bat glider thing. And the Penguin appears to her with some champagne, and we realize Catwoman didn't know the Penguin was actually going to murder the princess, and she feels kind of guilty. And the Penguin tries to fuck her, basically, and she's like, oh, I wouldn't touch you to scratch you. And so he gets shitty, thinking like, oh, you led me on, or some shit. And he hooks her by the neck on this flying umbrella. And when she's finally able to get unhooked, she falls down into a greenhouse and she lets out this like big blood curdling scream because she's now lost her third life. Batman tries to drive home in the Batmobile, but it has been taken over by Penguin, who is controlling it from a toy car version of it. And then we get more action, another action sequence of Batman trying to control the Batmobile while the Penguin forces him to like drive around and cause chaos and destroy the city. And he even almost hits a little old lady, but Batman finally manages to take back over and barely manages to escape the cops. And he like literally activates the switch that makes the Batmobile skinny so it can get through like this short little alleyway.
Which, okay.
Like,
You can just do that.
Okay, sure. The next day, Batman gets his revenge on the Penguin, though, because he hacks the speakers at this press conference that the Penguin is doing. And he has a CD that recorded what the Penguin was saying the night before. And it's playing and make it look like the Penguin is like saying it right now to all these people. And it's like, I'll take care of the squealing, wretched pinhead puppets of Gotham. You must admit, I played the stinking city like a hop from hell. And it keeps repeating it on a loop over and over again. And all these people get really offended. And so they start literally throwing tomatoes at him.
Booing him.
They're like, ew, tomatoes. And he's like, why is it everyone always brings a salad bar to a speech? And now everyone just hates him. And the campaign is ruined. And he runs away and he dives into the sewers where his parents tossed him away. And he returns to his lair in his giant rubber ducky boat.
I love the rubber ducky boat.
Love the rubber ducky boat. And he decides to go full evil Penguin mode at this point. And he tells the circus gang his plan that he's been hiding this whole time, which is kidnap and drown all of the firstborn sons of all the families of Gotham. Like, he wants to kill kids.
He wants to do a fucking God exodus.
Right.
On these motherfuckers. Like, what the fuck?
Another, like, Moses and the Reeds.
Yes.
Like, analogy in this
like,
movie.
holy shit. He is Moses, but he's evil Moses.
Right. He's literally evil Moses. And there's this one clown guy who's like, Mr. Penguin, killing kids, isn't that a little... And then the Penguin shoots him and he goes, no, it's a lot. At Shrek's masquerade party, which they're playing Super Freak, Super Freak, Super Freak for no reason, which I love. Selena shows up and Bruce shows up and neither of them are wearing masks. They're like tired of wearing masks.
Because that is their mask.
Oh, yeah. And they slow dance together. And he goes, I'm so sorry about yesterday, but I had a pretty big deal fall through, actually. It's okay. I had to go home and feed my cat. And he goes, no hard feelings then? And she goes, actually, semi-hard, I'd say. As she's like pressed up against him. Yeah, Batman made a boner joke. Like, oh my God. See, that's why I love this movie. Because it's like
movie
edgy.
This is for kids.
Right? It's like edgy. And she goes, there's a big comfy California king over in bedding. Why don't we...
take off our costumes?
I'm tired of wearing masks.
Me too. Let me ask you something. Why'd you come tonight?
You first. And he does the handsome Squidward.
To see you.
Oh, that's lovely, Bruce. I wish I could say the same, but I came from Max.
Do you mean...
Me and Max. No. This and Max. And she pulls out a gun. And he starts to like panic and freak out and like try to hold her down. And she goes, no, don't tell me killing Max won't solve anything, because it will. Aren't you tired of this sanctimonious robber baron coming out on top when he should be 6 feet under?
You may have problems with your boss,
But who the hell do you think you are?
And she starts to like crack and she starts crying. And she's like, I don't know anymore, Bruce. And they just start kissing. It's like a weird, wet, sad kiss. And then she looks up and she notices some mistletoe hanging above. And she goes, a kiss under the mistletoe.
Mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it.
But a kiss can be even deadlier.
If you mean it.
And that's the moment where they realize each other's secret identities, because they had both said that to each other before as Batman and Catwoman.
Yeah. And it's kind of like it's kind of sad.
I think it's really sad.
It's like kind of a heartbreaking moment.
And instead of like starting to fight, they start dancing some more and like embracing each other. And
Well, they're like, well, let's go away. Let's go talk about this. And they leave at the perfect time because as soon as they do, the floor blows up.
right, yeah. And the Penguin appears in this like rubber ducky lift again. And Bruce and Selena just kind of get lost in the chaos. But the Penguin like starts lecturing the people of Gotham. And he goes, you didn't invite me, so I crashed. Right now, my troops are fanning out across town for your children. Your firstborn sons. The ones you left defenseless at home, so you could dress up like jerks, get juiced, and dance. Badly. I personally come for Gotham's favorite son, Mr. Chip Shrek. And Shrek convinces Penguin to take himself instead of Chip, to like sacrifice himself to save his son. So Penguin puts Shrek in the big bird cage in his lair. And he's like swinging there like all helpless, which it's funny to see Christopher Walken like stuck in a bird cage.
Yeah.
And the gang starts going out and they start kidnapping all the babies and putting them on this like train, like little train thing. But Batman intercepts it and he saves the babies. And one of the circus monkeys brings the Penguin a note from Batman, basically being like, Gotcha. I foiled your plan, bitch. Like, the jig is up. So the Penguin is pissed and he decides to strap rockets onto the back of all of his penguins and creates a literal penguin army. Some of these penguins were real penguins. Yeah. Some of them were animatronics. So it's like a mix.
Yes.
I think they look great.
Yes.
Then we get the big action sequence of the movie. Batman flies around in his like weird plane boat hybrid thing while the poodle lady counts down. She's like, 3, 2.
Estimated casualties after explosion, 100,000.
She has like a really monotone voice.
Yeah.
And Batman hacks the signal controlling the penguins and then has them all turn back around and go back to the sewer, basically. And Batman flies into the penguin's lair, and all the circus gang members just abandon the penguin. They're like, bitch, peace out.
Yeah,
we're
done.
scared of Batman.
We're gonna lose.
He already killed 2 of us, so let's get the fuck out. Then the penguin tries to drive away in his rubber ducky, but Batman shows up and crashes into him. And then Penguin jump scares him. I remember this freaked me out when I was a kid. Him like crashing down on Batman. And they have this big showdown, and it ends with the Penguin triggering the penguins, like all the little penguins' rockets to go off, and completely destroys the zoo.
Yeah.
And they go down into the lair. Catwoman appears and starts to go after Max. But Batman shows up and tries to stop her. And he asks her to let him turn Max into the police and they can just be together now. And he even takes his mask off and tries to speak to her directly as Bruce. And she goes, Bruce, I would love to live with you in your castle forever, just like in a fairy tale. But then she scratches his face and shoves him away. And she goes, but I just couldn't live with myself. So don't pretend this is a happy ending. And Max...
Selena Kyle, you're fired.
He does the you're fired, literally. And she takes off her mask now, too, because, like, the jig is on.
And Bruce Wayne, why are you dressed up like Batman?
Because he is Batman, you moron.
Was.
And he shoots
Batman.
Bruce. And she starts to approach him and she goes, you killed me. The Penguin killed me. Batman killed me. That's 3 lives down. Got enough in there to finish me off?
One way to find out.
He shoots her twice. And she like starts staggering, but like she's hanging in there.
Yeah.
And she goes, 4, 5, still alive. He shoots her 2 more times. Then he runs out of bullets, so she continues to advance on him. 6, 7, all good girls. Go She's like really fucked up now. Go to heaven. 2 lives left. I guess I'll save one for next Christmas. But in the meantime, how about a kiss, Santa Claus? And then she uses the Shrek branded taser from earlier. And she kisses him while grabbing some
Like electric wires.
and she pulls him in for an electrifying kiss that causes this huge explosion. And Batman can't find her in the wreckage, but he does find Max's charred corpse looking like a crispy
It's so
critter.
funny. It's funny.
It's funny, but it's really scary. Like,
Yeah.
again, this movie is a horror movie.
Yes.
And the movie really is a horror movie when the penguin appears right here out of the water and his mouth has some like nasty black shit like
leaking out of it.
oozing out of him. It's so gross. And he like slowly waddles towards Batman and pulls out an umbrella, but it ends up just being like one of those little like kid toy umbrella things with like a parasol on it.
Yep. He didn't grab the one that was a gun.
Yeah. He goes, damn, I picked a cute one. I'll murder you momentarily. But first, a refreshing drink of cool ice water. And then he falls over, dead. And the penguins all come up and ceremoniously carry his body into the water. And he like sinks away. And like the music and everything is so dramatic and it makes it like low-key really sad.
Yeah.
Like he's despicable, but you feel bad for him because life was cruel to him and like created him basically.
Yeah.
And we cut to later, maybe a few days later, and Alfred is driving Bruce home through the snowy streets. And Bruce is looking out the window and he sees a Catwoman-shaped shadow pass by. And he gets out and he follows it into this like back alley somewhere. All he finds is a black cat, which kind of looks like Miss Kitty, Selena's cat. He sees no Selena, but he takes the cat with him and goes back to the car. And Alfred says, come what may, Merry Christmas, Mr. Wayne. And he goes, Merry Christmas, Alfred. Goodwill towards men. Then the bat signal lights up in the sky and we see the back of Catwoman's head as she stands up into frame looking up at it. The end. Ooh, she's alive.
And we never got a sequel.
No, the sequel ended up turning into the Halle Berry Catwoman.
Which kind of slays.
Which is camp.
It kind of slays.
It's definitely like the definition of
they take the Catwoman thing so literally.
It's good.
It literally is. It's
Yeah.
such a bad good movie.
Yeah.
It's so bad. It's amazing.
But can you imagine we could have had a Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman movie?
I know, but
overall, I think it's such a good movie. Like, I think it's very sad. It has like this very haunting, like melancholy
like
vibe.
it's kind of tragic.
Like a Greek tragedy, right?
It really is because it's like nobody really gets a good ending.
Yeah, because a lot of the complaint for this movie is like, oh, there's not really a story, there's not really a character arc, and I'm like, no, all the characters go through like a very significant arc. Because like the Penguin wants to be respected and like wants to be a part of society, but then that obviously doesn't go his way.
Catwoman's revenge.
Wants to get her revenge, and she does, but I mean, at what cost? Her life is like destroyed now.
Yeah.
And Batman just wants he wants Selena.
He wants a life partner, and he found
wants
the perfect person finally, and he can't have her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tragic.
It's really sad.
It's kind of like an anti-Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Because it's about, and which I love. I don't think there's enough movies that are about the lonely aspects of the holidays. I feel like there's a lot of times where Christmas can be really lonely.
It's a depressing time for some people.
Yeah.
During this time of year. Christmas is like one of the most depressing times for some people.
I mean, I hate snow. I have really bad seasonal
I mean, like,
depression.
I have seasonal depression, but it's, like, also just for some people, like, when it comes to, like, families, depending on, like, I mean, for queer people, it can be, like, yeah, you have your chosen family, but some people really do yearn for their, you know, birth, biological family.
Yeah.
Or people who, you know, are older and don't have a family, like, or have lost loved ones, you know. It can be a really sad time of year.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this leans into it, for sure.
Yeah, and I always loved that about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's probably my favorite Christmas movie. It's just very real.
Mine's How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey.
Well, that's probably my actual favorite Christmas, like, if we're talking about real Christmas
Like,
movies.
festive.
Yeah, it's definitely the Jim Carrey Grinch. But yeah, okay, so...
What's next week?
Next week is our 50th episode.
Oh my god, our 50th episode's next week. That's crazy.
I know.
That's crazy.
We have something very special planned for the 50th episode.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us on Let's Scream. We hope you had a fun time with us in Gotham. Please remember to follow the pod, like the pod, and leave a glowing review of the pod, of course. And you can follow us at Let's Scream Pod on all social medias.
And you can follow me at Parker_Will_C on Instagram.
And you can follow me at Stevie Nash 95 on Instagram.
And until next time,
this has been Let's Scream. Bye.